Hey guys, it's Lucian, and today I am going to be starting a challenge for myself where I will be reading the top 10 books in the Goodreads Young Adult Fantasy and Sci-Fi category of the Goodreads Choice Awards. So, I have actually wanted to do this video for so long. I have started doing this video like 2 years in a row. I started this type of video in 2019. I started it last year in 2020, but I always just stopped doing it for whatever reason. I kind of ran out of time, or there was a book that I was really not interested in, but I knew that if I didn't read it, it would kind of mess up with the video, so I just scrapped both of those videos. But this year I am determined to actually do it, and yeah, today is the first day of the Goodreads Choice Awards. The books were announced at midnight this morning, so I'm filming this right before I have to go to school, so hopefully this won't take too long. But basically, some things have actually changed this year where I was kind of thinking about my predictions, and I kind of had ideas for what would be in the first 15 and then what would be in the write-ins and stuff like that, but apparently there are no write-ins this year, which I'm actually kind of happy about because it just makes everything a little bit shorter. And also the write-ins never get picked for the top 10, so it was kind of just a waste of a round. So instead, this year what they have done is that in every category there are 20 books, and this is the first round, and then in the next round, those 20 will be shortened down to the top 10 in each category. So what I'm going to do right now is react to the first 20 that are in the Young Adult Fantasy and Sci-Fi section, and I'm kind of just going to talk about my thoughts. And then next time when the new round is announced, I'll be talking about the top 10, and then those books are the ones that I will be reading. Of course, if there are books in there that I've already read, I'm not going to be rereading them, but the books that I've not read, I'm going to read so that I can actually vote with so that there's actual merit going on, where I've read every single book, and so I can actually vote, because in years past I kind of just vote for out of the books that I have read, or if there's a book that I'm really interested in, I'll just vote for that. But this year, I want to do it right, so that's what I'm going to do. So I do have a list of my predictions for what books will be on the list, but instead of just going through them one by one, to save time, I'm just going to put a picture up here so you can see these are my main predictions that I made, and I've kind of been updating this list, as time has gone on. But these are my main predictions. Some of them, they're not in any particular order, but some of them I'm pretty sure about. Some of them are this might be on the list, who knows. But, yeah, so let's just start with the reaction. So, actually, I do have to mention, if there's a book on here that's a sequel, and I haven't read the first book, or say the fourth book in the series is on here and I haven't even started the series, or I only read book 1, I'll just read the book that I have to read. I'm obviously not going to read book 4 if I haven't read books 2 and 3 or something. So I'll just read, if there's a sequel on here and I haven't read book 1, I'll just read book 1. And I'm not going to force myself to read both of the books. I'm just going to kind of count them as one thing. So let's just get into it. Choice Awards 2021. Okay. Show more categories. Young Adult Fantasy. Okay. So, first up, we have Lore by Alexandra Bracken. This was on my predictions. This was a huge book. I feel not a lot of people actually read it, but I feel a lot of people bought it because it was on the New York Times list for 30 weeks or something. And it was #1 for a couple of weeks, I think. So yeah, I have read this book, and I did definitely enjoy it. It's not one of my favorite books of the year, but I did think it was really fun, and it was I read it when I was kind of not in a great mood, and I was just kind of felt pretty blah, and it did definitely pick me up, so I enjoyed that about it, but I'm not really that surprised that it's on here. Same with the next book, which is Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare. This is one of my favorite books of the year so far. I have an entire 50-minute reading vlog, so you can check that out if you want. But I loved this book so much, and I'm definitely not surprised that it's on here. It's Cassandra Clare. She's on here every year. Then we have Namesake by Adrienne Young. So I read Fable, which is the first book in the series, and I thought it was just okay. I honestly don't think it was anything special, but I'm kind of upset this is on here because I honestly don't know anybody who has even read this series, And, like, I just thought Fable was, like, kind of okay, and I was really not planning on reading the sequel. But I guess if it ends up in the top 10, I will have to. And basically, once this is over, I'm gonna kind of predict the top 10. I don't have any secret, I just have, like, pick for the top 10 books that are, like, have the most ratings, because those are the ones that are probably gonna get voted for. So, yeah. Anyway, I think this book has like 20,000 ratings or something, so it will probably end up on the top 10, which, hate that for me. But, I mean, it's not like there could be worse books that I could read, to be honest. Then we have Iron Widow by Zhao. This is another one that I expected it to be on here, but I really am not the biggest fan of sci-fi, and I honestly don't like sci-fi. And I think this is like space sci-fi as well, which, again, I'm just not the biggest fan of. I read it sometimes, but very rarely. In the books that I have read, I usually give like 3 stars or less, so that's kind of upsetting that it's on here, but I really did expect it to be on here, and yeah, I mean, I guess if it does end up in the top 10, it won't be like horrible to read, but I'm not really excited to read it if I have to. A Vow So Bold and Deadly by Bridget Kemmerer. I am actually kind of surprised that this book is on here, because I thought if they were going to pick a Bridget Kemmerer book, it would be Defy the Night, because that came out more recently. Like, A Vow So Bold and Deadly came out in January, and Defy the Night came out in September. So I thought they were going to pick that one. Also, they did pick A Curse of Dark and Lonely in 2019, but last year they did not pick A Heart So Fierce and Broken, so I wasn't expecting them to pick the 3rd book in the series when they didn't even pick the 2nd, but I have actually been waiting to read this book, and I feel like now I will have a reason to. And it came out early in the year, so it has had more time to get ratings, so it will probably end up in the top 10. Rumbreaker by Victoria Aveyard. I'm not surprised that this book is on here. Similarly with Lore, it was on the New York Times list for a really, really long time, and it's also Victoria Aveyard. I have read this book, and I enjoyed it. I feel similarly towards it as I do with Lore. I definitely enjoyed it, and it was fun, but it's not like anything extraordinary. Then we have Gods and Monsters by Shelby Mahurin. I feel like I'm kind of surprised that this book is on here, because Blood and Honey was not picked last year. I think Serpent and Dove was on the list in 2019, 2019, but not Blood and Honey last year. So that's interesting. I've not read Blood and Honey, I've read Serpent and Dove, so for this challenge I will read Blood and Honey if this gets picked for the top 10. Lost in the Neverwoods by Aiden Thomas. I literally have heard nothing about this book. Like, I feel like it came out and then there was just crickets in the background. I don't know anybody who has read this book, but I think it's a Peter Pan retelling, so that might be interesting if it gets picked. A Scabby on the Store by Sabaa Tahir. Again, another one of my favorite books of the year. I absolutely loved this book. I think it is, like, it's so good. Like, it's so good. I love the Ember and the Ashes series. The Gilded ones by Namina Forna. Okay, I've actually kind of wanted to read this really recently. Like, I've been seeing it around a little bit more, and I was like, I really want to read that. And so that's pretty interesting. I feel like every time I read the synopsis, it reminds me so much of Divergent, but that could just be like, I don't know, the synopsis is a little bit like unclear, but it does remind me a little bit of Divergent, like the blood thing. So yeah, I am definitely excited to read this book, and I feel like I have a reason to now. And it did come out earlier this year, so it probably does have a lot of ratings. Our Violet Ends by Chloe Gong. This book literally came out today, so I think today is like actually the cutoff, so that's interesting. I've not read These Violent Delights. I didn't really have that much of an interest in it when it first came out, and I heard that it's really gory, and I hate gore, so that might be But I feel like I kind of want to read it just to see what all the hype is about, because so many people love that book, in this series. I don't think this will end up in the top 10 though, because again, it literally came out today, and I don't think it has enough ratings for people to like vote for it. Actually, let me see how many ads it has, because it has 1,000 ratings, but let me see how many. Okay, there are 69,000 like people have added it, so that's interesting. I guess maybe I'll have to go off of that instead of like the most ratings. Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I have read this book. I did not enjoy it though, so this will definitely not be my pick. House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. I literally could have sworn that this book was a thriller. It just looks very thrillery to me, or like a mystery. So, I've heard, like, nothing about this book. I don't even know, like, what it's about or anything. So, I think for that reason, I kind of hope it's not going to be in the top 10, but we'll see. Actually, let me see. Oh my god. It has 21,000 ratings. And 105,000 ads. I literally heard nothing about this book. I'm sorry. Six Permanent Cranes by Elizabeth Lim I have heard about, and I was really interested in it when it first came out, but then I kind of lost interest a little bit, but I would read it. The Ones We're Meant to Find by Jonah. I don't really know anything about this book, but I did hear a little bit about it. We Free the Stars by House of Faisal. I read the first book in the series and I definitely enjoyed it, and I haven't been to get around to the sequel, so I guess this is a reason to. How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories. This is literally a short story collection. I don't understand why it's on this list. I also do not enjoy it, so maybe that's why it's kind of frustrating for me, but I mean, it was fine, but I have no idea why it's on this list. I mean, I guess it was fine, but like, I have no idea why it's on this list. Okay, I have to go to school soon and my camera's about to die, so let's speed this up. Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo. I read this book, I gave it 5 stars. I really, really loved it. It'll probably end up on my top 10 books of the year. Anyway, The Wind Blows by Rainbow Rowell. Ugh, I really was hoping this is not on the list because I just have no interest in the series anymore, but it'll probably end up on the top 10. These Hollow Vows, I've heard like a little bit about. I think it's a fae book. I've really no interest in reading it. And that's it. So, out of these, I've read 7. I've read 7 out of the 20. Not a great, ratio, but I guess we'll see how many of those end up in the top 10. So, yeah, this took way longer than I thought, but I'm gonna go because I have to go to school, but I will see you when the final round is announced. Okay, so it is November 30th. I have to go to school in like half an hour, so I have to do this pretty quickly, but the Goodreads Choice Words Final Round Top 10 stuff was released at midnight today, or I guess, well, like, it was released today, okay? This is the first time I'm looking at it. So, with that in mind, let's just click on here and scroll down to Young Adult Fantasy. Okay, first up, we have Any Way the Wind Blows by Rainbow Rowell. So I did definitely predict this one to be on here. It was out since July and it had a ton of ratings and reviews. Honestly, I feel like I'm not too upset that I have to read this. I feel like I would have read it eventually, and I have read the first 2 books in the series, and I feel like I should just finish it out. So yeah, I'll probably end up starting that one today just because it's really, really long. I think it's like almost 600 pages, so I'm going to try to get that one over with. Next we have Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I'm actually kind of surprised that this is on here because it doesn't have like so many reviews. It did come out pretty recently, but I think it did have a lot of being shelved. That made no sense. But, it's on here. I've read it, didn't really like it, so that will not be my pick. Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo. I definitely predicted this one. It came out in March, so it has like a ton of ratings and reviews. I have read this one and I loved it, so that's definitely in the running. Lore by Alexandra Bracken. I've read this one as well and I did enjoy it. It's not my favorite, but I did like it. Our Violent Ends by Chloe Gong. I'm actually really surprised this is on here because it came out like the day that the first 20 were released or announced. So yeah, it doesn't have a ton of reviews, but I guess a lot of people voted for it just because they wanted to read it, so I guess that makes sense. So I'm not going to be reading Our Violent Ends, but I will be reading These Violent Delights. I'm okay with reading that book, I guess. I just heard that it's really gory, and that's just like not my thing. But, I guess I'll see how it is. So that should be interesting. The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. I definitely predicted this one, and I am really excited to read this book, actually. Iron Widow by Xiran Zhao. Okay, I was really hoping this one wouldn't be on here. I just don't like sci-fi. I don't know why, but like, I just have never really been able to connect with it. Like, I can't remember the last time I read a sci-fi book, and like, genuinely enjoyed it. So, this should be interesting. It might, blow me out of the water though. I know a lot of people have really loved it. Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare. Okay, this is definitely in the running for me as well. I loved this book. I have a whole reading vlog for it. I have a whole reading vlog for Rowell of Wolves as well. But I loved Chain of Iron so much. How I Think of Elfhame Learn to Hate Stories. I've read this one as well. This is by Holly Black. Again, I'm not surprised this is on here, but it's not going to be my pick because I did not really like it that much. A Sky Beyond the Storm by Sabaa Tahir. This is another one that I've read, and I also loved this one. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, so that's in the running for me as well. And that's it. Okay, so out of these 10, I have read 6 of them. So the ones that I have to read are Iron Widow, The Gilded Ones, These Violent Delights, and Anyway the Wind Blows. And I have like 6 days to read them because I think this ends on December 5th. So that should definitely be interesting. But now I'm gonna go finish getting ready for school and head out. And I will update later today with, you know, my progress. I'm probably gonna start Anyway the Wind Blows, so I will update you on my progress with that. Hello. So it is a Wednesday, it is the next day, and I just got home from school and I took a shower, which is why I look like this. And I'm sorry that it's so dark out. I hate filming when I get home from school now, because like daylight savings or whatever, it's just, it gets dark so early. It's not even 4 o'clock. But regardless, I do have a reading update for you. So as I said yesterday, I am going to start, or I was going to start Anyway the Wind Blows by Rainbow Rowell. I have since started it. I started it yesterday. I wasn't able to like get any reading done yesterday in school because I spent all my free periods doing like a bunch of work. But after I came home, I did start reading, and I think I got up to like chapter 30 or something. And then this morning I got up to chapter 50 before I went to school, and then I am now currently on chapter 54. So I have about like 35 chapters left. I think the book is like 90 chapters. I'm not 100% sure. But, yeah, so I'm over halfway through the book, and I'm definitely enjoying it. I'm actually enjoying it a lot more than I expected to, because I really don't remember a ton from Carry On, but I do remember, like, enjoying it overall. I think I gave it about, like, a 4 stars, and I read Wayward Son around this time, like, 2 years ago, and I thought it was okay. Like, I thought it was just, you know, like, a good 3 stars. I honestly didn't think, like, Carry On needed to even have a sequel, but I was like, you know, this is a fine follow-up, like, it's okay, and so it was, like, very 3 stars, and so I kind of went into this book with pretty, like, low expectations, and I'm pleasantly surprised, like, as of where I am. I remember, like, basically nothing from the first 2 books in the series, but Rainbow Rowell did do a pretty good job of, like, recapping, and it's not, like, so contingent on the events of the first 2 books. Like, you know what you need to know going into this, so I definitely enjoyed that, and I am really liking it, actually. I kind of feel like this is more similar to the first book. Like, I feel like Wayward Son was kind of like an intermission. It was kind of just like, you know, its own thing. But now, Anyway the Wind Blows, we're like back to Carry On. And I don't think there was anything like wrong with Wayward Son. I just thought it wasn't like as good as Carry On. And I didn't love Carry On as much as like everyone else had, because I feel like that everyone loved that book. But I definitely enjoyed it, but I didn't like it as much as everyone else. But I am happy with how much I'm enjoying Anyway the Wind Blows. I haven't filmed a video, like, talking, like, a reading vlog, where I haven't been able to, like, talk about spoilers in the book, but I am definitely liking the characters, and I do like the way that Rainbow Rowell, like, is able to kind of switch between their POVs. It does feel very natural, and I like how she is able to kind of balance all the different plots, because I feel like Wayward Son was a little bit too, like, narrow-focused, but I think this one is back to Carry On, where, like, everyone kind of has their own thing going on, and I do like all the things that are happening, and I'm definitely intrigued with this one character named Lady Ruth. She was the narrator of the first chapter, and she was the narrator of another chapter, like, you know, a little while ago. But I'm definitely excited to see, like, how she plays out, and this is the finale, so I am looking forward to seeing how it wraps up, because I am, like, pretty attached to the characters. I think I forgot how much I actually liked them, and yeah, I think, again, another reason that I was kind of apprehensive going into this is because I just, like, it'd been a while since I read the first 2 books. But, you know, as I said, I feel like I'm a broken record at this point. I'm definitely enjoying it, and I'm excited to see how it goes. I don't think it'll, like, bump the other books on my list, but we shall see. Hello, so it is the next day. It's about like 9:30. I got up at like 7:30 and then I had breakfast and coffee and then I was helping my mom with some stuff. But I, this morning, finished Any Way the Wind Blows by Rainbow Rowell. So I read the majority of it yesterday. As I said, I think in my update I got up to chapter like 54, and then I think I got up to chapter 80 last night, and then I just finished like the last 10 or so chapters while I was eating breakfast. I mean, well, I was drinking my coffee. I haven't eaten breakfast yet, but while I was at the kitchen table. And I definitely enjoyed this book. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. I am actually really pleased with this reading experience. I probably never would have picked this book up on my own, so I guess this video is, you know, good for that. But I definitely really liked this book. I think that, I don't know if I like this or Carry On more. I feel like I honestly need to go back and reread Carry On just because I don't remember a ton from it. But I think, you know, I might do that and see like what my final ranking of the series is. But I think right now, it's probably Any Way the Wind Blows, Carry On, and Wayward Son. But, you know, I definitely enjoyed the character work in this book. I think that was probably, I don't know if that or the plot was my favorite part, but I definitely liked that. I liked the way that Rainbow Rowell was able to incorporate all the different characters, and I think she handled the multiple POVs really well. And I also really liked the short chapters that we got from like other characters. Like there was a character named Lady Ruth. We got even, like, a scene from Headmistress Bunce's point of view, and, like, a new character as well, so I really liked that, and I think that all the characters had, like, pretty interesting storylines. I think my problem with Carry On and Wayward Son was that I didn't really care about all of the characters, but in this book, I wasn't ever, like, mad to turn the page and see who was narrating. I think I definitely like Agatha and Simon and Penelope the most. And I kind of I never really liked Baz that much. And I feel like Shepard, like one of the new characters that we've met in Wayward Son, he's not my favorite, but like I don't really have anything against him. So yeah, Baz and Shepard are like okay, but I do really like Agatha and Simon and Penelope. So I really liked their chapters the most, and I think the plot was pretty good. Like I was, you know, reading it pretty quickly. I think the short chapters and, like, the switching between the POVs definitely helped with that. And I don't think there was ever, like, a storyline that I wasn't interested in. Like, I think Simon and Baz's storyline was interesting, Penelope and Shepard's, Agatha's was, you know, fun to read about. So I am pretty pleased with this. It's not, like, a 5-star, because there were some problems with it, and this isn't, like, my favorite series ever, but I am definitely really surprised, because I went in with pretty low expectations. But I definitely came out of the book enjoying it, so yeah, I guess this is my new ranking now. So I think I have Chain of Iron on the top, A Sky Beyond the Storm, Rule of Wolves, Any Way the Wind Blows, Lore, How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories, and then Once Upon a Broken Heart. So yeah, I have 1 book down, 3 more to go. I think the next one that I want to read is Iron Widow by Xiran Zhao. I don't know how I'm going to get my hands on it because I don't really want to buy, like, a new hardcover because I don't know if I'm going to, like, enjoy the book that much, and also it won't come here until, like, tomorrow or Saturday. So that's one thing. I did download the audiobook from Audible because I have 1 credit, but, you know, it's not on Scribd. I can't get a copy from my library, and it's not, like, on Kindle Unlimited or anything, so I guess maybe I'll just have to listen to the audiobook. I think, honestly, it might not be that bad, because I feel like audiobooks are kind of just, you can just kind of have it on in the background. So, yeah, I'm probably gonna try to finish it either today or tomorrow. Today is the 2nd, so I have 4 days to finish 3 books. So I'm gonna try my best to finish Iron Widow today. We shall see. I don't know, but that should be interesting. Okay, anyway, so yeah, I just wanted to update and tell you that I finished Any Way the Wind Blows, and I will probably be starting Iron Widow next. So, it is much later in the day. It is 3:33, but after that clip, I went with my mom because I had to go to a doctor's appointment, and then we went to the mall to do, like, some Christmas shopping. And I just got home, but I do have actually 2 reading updates. So I did start Iron Widow, and I started the audiobook. I am currently 2 hours and 45 minutes in, and I just reached part 2. So I'm like at chapter 10. Right now it's kind of sitting at like a 3 stars. I'm not really the biggest fan of it. It's kind of like a retelling of Wu Zetian, who was like the first the first empress of China, but it's like has a sci-fi twist. I still don't know. I almost kind of wish that this was just like a historical fiction, and not like with these weird pilot things and these like creatures. I'm not the biggest fan of sci-fi, and I feel like I've said that a million times. But yeah, I feel like that's kind of hindering my enjoyment of the book. Also, it's just very action-heavy, and I feel like I have no connection to the characters. And I just kind of can't figure out, like, who's who. And I don't think it's because of the audiobook, because I've listened to audiobooks before, and I've been perfectly fine. I think it's just kind of, like, this story. And then I'm also on chapter 10 of The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. I started the ebook of this, because it was available through my library, so I just downloaded the ebook, and I'm enjoying this one as well. It's kind of like, basically, the main character, Decca, finds out that she has gold blood, so she's, like, impure, and she finds out that she's, like, part of a race of people who have these gold blood, and it's just this whole thing. Again, I'm only on chapter 10, but, so yeah, this is gonna be, like, my ebook physical read, and then Iron Widow is gonna be my audiobook read. So I'm hoping to finish either both of these tomorrow, or one of them tomorrow and one of them on Saturday, or, you know, both of them on Saturday. Just as long as I have both of these done by December 4th, I will be happy. But yeah, kind of a quick update. I don't really have much to say about either of the books, but I am definitely, at the moment, enjoying The Gilded Ones a little bit more than Iron Widow. So, it is currently Saturday. It is 12:41, and I ended up finishing both of the books that I was currently reading. I meant to update yesterday, but it was kind of just a little bit crazy and I didn't have time to, so we're just gonna do it now with much better lighting. The lighting is much better at like noon than it is at like 4:30 when I get home from school and finish showering when it's like basically already dark. But we're gonna start with my update on Iron Widow by Zhao, because this is the one that I finished first. I ended up giving this book 1.5 out of 5 stars. I don't think I've ever been more bored reading a book in my life, apart from some like school, like books that I had to read for school. This was such a dreadful reading experience. I was so bored, like 99% of the time. There were a few scenes, maybe like 2 or 3, that I was actually somewhat engaged in, but for the most part, I just hated this book. So I think the last time I updated you, I was like, you know, it could be like a 3 stars, and then as I continued listening to the audiobook, it just got worse and worse, and I was like, ooh, okay, maybe it's a 2.5, maybe it's a 2, and then it just descended so far down that this is now, like, probably, if not my second to least favorite book of the year. I just don't even know, like, how to explain it. Like, it's just, you know when you just really don't like a book, but you don't know how to explain it? Like, I feel like I kind of knew I wouldn't enjoy it because it's a sci-fi, and I'm not great with sci-fi. It's not that I don't even understand it, it's that I just don't like it. It's not, like, my preferred genre. It takes a lot for me to read a sci-fi, and even then I usually don't really like it that much. But for this one, I loved the idea of following, like, doing a retelling of the life of China's first empress. I thought that was so interesting, and I just thought that was a cool kind of premise, and I always really liked learning about Chinese history in school, and I think all types of mythology are so interesting, and Chinese mythology is just, there's so much. And so I feel like it would have been so cool if this book was just like a historical fiction with some fantasy elements, or even if it was like set in a fantasy world, that's fine, but if it had like, you know, paralleled the life of the first empress and included like a little bit of Chinese history and, you know, more mythology, I would have really liked it. But I feel like the book was just so weighed down by the sci-fi elements and the mechas and chrysalises and whatever the frick else was going on. it was just too much, and I felt like this book was just bogged down with so many action scenes. I really don't like reading fight scenes because I just find it so incredibly boring. I like it when there's plot happening, but I don't think it is good to just, like if the only plot in your book is, like, battle. And that was basically what this book was. And it reminded me a lot of Skyward in that aspect, but not as well written. So yeah, I was just not a fan of it. I hated the characters. Okay, I didn't hate the characters, but I just didn't care about them at all. I can barely tell you, like, any of their characteristics. I think, apart from the three main characters, all of the other characters could basically have been replaced with, like, I don't even know, a doorknob, and it would not have made a difference. And it was just not good. And I do like that this book included a polyamorous relationship, because that's, like, so rare in, like, commercial YA. But, like, obviously that's not going to change my reading. But regardless, I do like that it included that. And also, I looked up some of the fan art for this book, and it was so cool and well drawn, and, like, it, like, put me in the mood to read it, and then I would start reading it again, and I would just hate it all over again. So, yeah, I was not a fan of this book. 1.5 stars, maybe 2, but I feel like I'm only saying that because I just finished it, like, half an hour ago, so I feel like it's still a little bit fresh, but I feel like in a month's time I'll be like, no, it was definitely 1 star. So, yeah, that is definitely at the bottom of my list for this reading challenge. And then, with the next book that I finished, The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna, I ended up giving this book, like, a 3 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a pretty solid debut. Like, I don't really have anything against this book. I'm just pretty ambivalent towards it. I think that, you know, the characters were fine. I think Deca was an interesting main character. She definitely could have used a little bit more development and stuff, but I feel like for what it was, she was a pretty good protagonist. I don't think the other characters were really fleshed out that well, but, you know, it was fine. And I think that the plot was, like, kind of interesting. Like, I was never bored while reading the book. There was always something, like, keeping me engaged, but it was not really enough to, like, make this book anything, to give this book a rating anything higher than 3 stars. So yeah, also, I feel like I could definitely tell this was a debut because, as I said in my Goodreads review, the, like, amount of times that everything turned black, or everything went dark, or, you know, her vision just, like, faded, was so much. Like, it happened so often, to the point where it was, like, it felt like every time the author didn't know what to do, she just, like, made her main character pass out. So yeah, I think some of the themes and the messages in this book are really good, and I feel like it is kind of timely, despite being a fantasy book, but, again, like, I just feel pretty okay towards it. I would honestly pick up the sequel, because I read the synopsis for the sequel, and it seems really, really interesting, because I definitely did like the ending of this book. I just felt like this book itself was not that great, and I felt like it was just reminding me a lot of different YA books. Like, I got a lot of Divergent vibes, a lot of Hunger Games vibes, things like that, and also, I said this in my Goodreads review as well, but if you have read Children of Blood and Bone, and you've read the first, like, if you remember the first chapter, where it was, like, Zaylee and all those other people who were getting trained by Mama Agba, then I feel like you will, like, agree with me when I say that this book is basically, like, if Tomi Adeyemi had decided to expand the first chapter of Children of Blood and Bone into, like, an entire novel with some, like, Divergent and Hunger Games vibes, you would get The Gilded Ones. There's nothing wrong with that, I just felt like, I don't know why, I just felt that way when I was reading it. So, yeah, this definitely was okay. I feel like, also the writing, you know, it was fine. The writing and the world building were kind of just okay. I do really like the West African mythology that was included in this book a lot, and there's, like, a little animal slash sidekick that Deca, the main character, has that I thought was really cool, so I hope he's in book 2. So yeah, I really liked that, and I will probably read book 2, especially since it comes out, like, pretty soon, I think in April or something. So I will probably pick it up. So, I have now read 9 out of the 10 books, so yes, that means the next book I'm going to be reading is These Violent Delights. It is on Scribd, thank God. I don't have to listen to another audiobook. I don't mind listening to audiobooks, but I hate listening to audiobooks for like a book the entire way through. I like being able to read it physically when I can, and then turning on the audiobook when I want to. Even then, it's kind of rare because I'm just not the biggest fan of audiobooks. So that's another reason why Iron Widow was just like so intolerable. But yeah, so These Violent Delights is on Scribd, so hopefully I can finish that by the end of the day tomorrow. It's only noon, so I'll probably start it like sometime soon and try to get at least halfway through tonight. But if you were interested in like my new ranking, I have Chain of Iron, A Sky Beyond the Storm, and Rule of Wolves all at the top. I kind of need to distinguish like who's number 1, who's number 2, and 3. But then after that I have Anyway the Wind Blows by Rainbow Rowell, Lore by Alexandra Bracken, The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna, How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories by Holly Black, Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber, and then last we have Iron Widow by Xiran Zhao. So, yeah, also something that I noticed is that 8 out of the 10 books that are on the list were number 1 New York Times bestsellers. 9 out of the 10 books on the list were by number 1 New York Times best-selling authors, and all of the books on the list were at least on the New York Times bestsellers list. So I feel like a lot of people say that the Goodreads Choice Awards is like a popularity contest. I do definitely agree with that because, you know, I'm doing this challenge because I want to be able to vote the right way. I want to be able to read all of the books and kind of actually be able to determine which out of the 10 are the best. But, yeah, I feel like a lot of people will just, like, read one book or, like, know a book and pick that. So, you know, it is definitely a popularity contest, but anyway. Also, after I finish These Violent Delights, I do plan on, like, well, obviously ranking that, and then deciding what my top 10 fantasy and sci-fi books of 2021 are. So, stay tuned for that. But right now, I am really, really hungry, so my dad and I are going to go to Barnes & Noble and pick up lunch and bring it back home for the rest of the family, so I will see you later. Hello! So it is Sunday, it is almost 11 o'clock, and I got up at like 8 something, and then went downstairs and had coffee and ate breakfast, and then my dad and I put up the tree, and, you know, my mom was decorating and stuff, and my sister just woke up, so yeah, that's what I was doing, but I do have a reading update. Also, sorry, I know I'm always at this angle. I just keep forgetting to move my tripod, but regardless, I am currently on chapter 21 of These Violent Delights by Gong, and I am really, really enjoying this book. I am so surprised with how much I'm liking it. I thought that I would kind of just, like, give it 3-star. I went in with, like, pretty mediocre expectations, but I'm actually really, really, like, I'm having a really fun time reading the story, which is a little bit surprising to me, but I just really, really enjoy it so far. Basically, this book is kind of a little bit difficult to explain. It's a Romeo and Juliet retelling, so we have 2 main characters. The first is Juliet Kai, who is the heir to the Scarlet Gang, which is kind of like it like runs all the gangster activity in Shanghai, and we're in 1926 Shanghai. And then our other character is Roman Montagov, who is the heir to the White Flowers, which is a Russian gang that has kind of come into Shanghai. And it's like their rival families, rival like organizations, and, you know, it's a Romeo and Juliet retelling, so that kind of goes from there. And then there's also a monster that has awoken in Shanghai that is kind of infesting people's bodies, and then, you know, it's gross. But that was, like, my main issue with the story, is that I thought it would be way too gory for me, and it is very gory and violent, as the title would suggest, but it is not, like, gratuitous, I don't think. Like, it's a little bit gross, and I kind of skim read when there's, like, those gross scenes, but it's not to the point where it's, like, impossible to read. This is a YA book, so it's not, like, you know, it's not too grotesque. It is a little bit weird, and it does kind of have my skin crawling, but yeah. So, that's that. I'm really, really enjoying the politics of the story. Like, I really like the way that Chloe Gong is incorporating the historical parts of this book, because there's obviously a lot of turmoil between the Chinese and the Russians, because there are these, like, entire sections in Shanghai that are, like, no Chinese allowed, because they've been infiltrated by, you know, other countries, like Great Britain or France or Russia and things like that. So that's one thing, and there's also, like, the Communist Party and the Nationalist Party, and I really like how she's incorporating that into the story. And I also just really like the kind of dynamic between Juliet and Roma. I'm not the biggest fan of, like, the monster stuff. It does kind of add another layer to the story, and even though that stuff is kind of gross, it is really well written, so I guess that's, like, good, I guess. But, yeah, so that's that. I'm definitely enjoying the story a lot more than I thought I would. I'm about halfway through, so I can definitely finish the book today. And then vote later, which should be exciting. I don't know when the winners are being announced, but I will wait until the winners are announced and then do a little clip about that. But, yeah, I'm definitely liking the story a lot, and I really like how Chloe Gong did her research. I know that I'm pretty sure that she has Chinese heritage. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I've heard her say that, or maybe I'm thinking of something else. Yeah, okay, I just looked it up. She was born in China. So, yeah, we have that, but she also did a lot of research into Slavic customs, and especially Russian stuff. I'm not Russian, I'm Ukrainian and Croatian, but I know a lot about Russia. Like, my mom studied that stuff, and I just know a lot about it. And I really like how she did her research with that. Like, just small things like their last name. So Roma's last name, his last name is Montagov, but his sister Elisa, when it's written in her perspective, it will say Elisa Montagova. So that's, like, just a small thing that happens. And then also the patronymic. This is only in Russian, so it's not, like, in Ukrainian or anything. But basically, you have your patronymic, it's your middle name, and it's your father's name, and then with a little thing added onto it. So if Roma's father's name was Sergei, for example, his middle name would be Sergovich, and his sister Elisa's middle name would be Sergovna, or something along that. So I really like how she included that, and she really did her research, and I really enjoy that, and I'm definitely liking the historical aspects of the story, because it's just a really interesting time, and in an interesting place. I have never been to Shanghai, but I would really like to, and I like the way that she's painting the setting. And so I really like that, and it's also just interesting. It's like 1926, so it's kind of smack dab in the middle between the two world wars, so I definitely like that, and yeah, I'm really, really enjoying the story. So we shall see how I feel about the last half, but right now I'm gonna go make my bed and film a video, and hopefully get that up by Tuesday. But my main focus today is going to be finishing the book, and then I'm probably going to go somewhere with my family today to, like, get lunch or something, but that shouldn't take up too much time, so, yeah. I will see you later today when I finish the book and vote in the Choice Awards. Hello, so, this lighting is not good. Okay, is that better? There's a lamp right here, and I just turned it on. Hopefully the lighting is not atrocious. But I know I normally never film in here, but we just put up our Christmas tree, and I wanted to show it off. There are no ornaments on it yet, so it's not like that. It's not as beautiful as it soon will be, but I thought it was really pretty with all the lights and stuff. And we also, this is, like, totally unrelated to the vlog, but I'm gonna show it anyway. We also just put up, like, these things on our columns that are in front of our house, and it's to make them look like candy canes. But anyway, it is currently 4:45, and it is, like, already almost pitch black, which I hate, but I just finished These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. I actually finished it a lot earlier than I thought I would. I thought I'd be up really late tonight trying to finish it, but I actually finished it, like, half an hour ago, and I was marking it as read on Goodreads and, like, writing my review and everything, but I finished the challenge. So I've read the top 10 books, or the books that are in the top 10 for the Goodreads YA fantasy science fiction. That was not eloquently stated, but we're just gonna go with it. So yeah, I completed the challenge, and now I'm going to vote. But before I do that, I'm going to wrap up my thoughts on These Violent Delights. I really, really loved it. I ended up giving it a, like, 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's not a full 5 out of 5 stars, but I did really, really love it. I thought it was really great and just really fun, and I do think that the plot was, like, not that great. Like, it's definitely my least favorite part of the book, and, like, the whole monster thing, that was really, like, not necessary. I feel like it was a little bit too gory for me, and just, like, kind of too much, like, gratuitous violence. But apart from that, like, I really, really loved the characters. I thought that, like, the mystery of the monster and all that stuff was interesting. Just the scenes with it weren't that great. Like, I feel like this could have been more similar to, like, Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare, where there's, like, you know, this monster thing and this plague and they're trying to figure it out, but, you know, it's not, like, gross and, like, insects infesting in people's brains. So that was not my favorite part, but I really loved the politics and the history of the story and all the character dynamics. I thought that was really, really interesting. And as someone who has never read Romeo and Juliet, it is not that big of a deal. Like, you can definitely still enjoy the book. And yeah, also the reason I never read Romeo and Juliet was because of COVID. Like, we were supposed to read it in school, but then COVID happened. This was like the first year of COVID, so like the beginning of 2020. We were supposed to read it at the end of freshman year, but we lost time, so that was why I never read the play. But I know enough about it to, like, find my way through the book. But also, if you have literally no idea what Romeo and Juliet is about, I don't think it'll affect your reading experience. But yeah, I really, really liked the book. I thought it was super great overall. And I know that there's a Christmas short story that follows Roma and Juliet like 5 years before the start of the book, so I'm definitely going to read that, like, probably right now. I think it's only like 20 pages, and it's December, and I want to pick that up. And I will definitely be reading Our Violent Ends, which is the sequel. So that should be really fun, and I'm excited to see, like, where the series goes. And it's only a duology, so that's also the conclusion. So that should be fun, but I thought now I would just discuss my ranking of all the 10 books. So I have Chain of Iron, A Sky Beyond the Storm, and Rule of Wolves at the top. I am going to kind of, in a minute, decide what's number 1, 2, and 3. But after that, I have These Violent Delights. It really, like, it's at number 4. Like, it shot up. I thought it would be, like, you know, around, like, number 7 or something. But, so, number 4 is These Violent Delights. Number 5 is Any Way the Wind Blows. Number 6 is Lore. Number 7 is The Gilded Ones. Number 8 is How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories. Number 9 is Once Upon a Broken Heart. And number 10 is Iron Widow. So, now it is time to vote, and I have to decide which of these books is my favorite. So, it's obviously between Chain of Iron, A Sky Beyond the Storm, and Rule of Wolves. I think Rule of Wolves is out because I did really love that book, but, like, you know, it's just, I don't think it's as good as Chain of Iron and A Sky Beyond the Storm. So Rule of Wolves is definitely number 3, sorry. But which one is number 1 and which one is number 2? I feel like I really, really loved both of the books, Chain of Iron and A Sky Beyond the Storm. I feel like I liked them pretty equally. And I feel like Cassandra Clare, she's won before, and I feel like she probably will win this year. So I kind of want to vote for A Sky Beyond the Storm because Sabaa Tahir has never won before, and I feel like this is the finale to the Ever in the Ashes series, and I feel like it deserves the vote. So I think I'm going to be voting for A Sky Beyond the Storm, but let's just go. Choice Awards 2021. Okay, the round closes in 10 hours. I was really scared that it was going to, like, close today, but it didn't, so that's good. Anyway, young adult, fantasy. I can't believe I read all these books. I mean, technically I didn't read Our Violent Ends, but you know what I mean. I'm going to be really mad if I end up, like, when I end up reading Our Violent Ends, if I, like, love that book and give it 5 stars, and I'd be like, I should have voted for that, but it's fine. So, yeah, here we go. A Sky Beyond the Storm by Sabaa Tahir. Vote. Okay, so I voted. Wow. It's kind of a little bit upsetting that the book that I ended up voting for is one that I already read, but, you know, at least I get to say that I read all the top 10, and I read 2 books that I probably never would have gotten around to. I probably never would have gotten around to Any Way the Wind Blows, and I probably never would have gotten around to These Violent Delights, and I ended up liking those books a lot. Those were my number 4 and 5 picks. And then, you know, The Gilded Ones was good. I still enjoyed it. Iron Widow, that's the one book that I regret reading, but it's fine, you know. I guess I feel like everything has a purpose, so I feel like there was a reason that I read that book. Anyway, so I just looked. The winners are announced on December 9th. So I guess I will see you guys in a couple of days when the winner is announced. I don't know if a Sky Beyond the Storm is going to win. I really hope it does, but, you know, I'll be happy if any of the books win except for, like... I'll be happy if any... But, you know, I'll be happy if any of, like, my top 3 win. I feel like that would be pretty good, and I will boycott Goodreads if Iron Widow wins. So, it is December 9th. I have to film this really quickly because I have to go to school, because I don't know if I've explained, but, like, every other day I have periods 1 and 2 free, which is why I sometimes film before school, because I have more time, but today I don't have 1st and 2nd free, so it's like a regular day for me. And it's 7:40 and school starts at 8:15, so I have to do this quickly. But it's December 9th, it's Thursday, and Goodreads just announced the best books of 2021. I'm gonna look at them. I've been avoiding Goodreads like the plague this morning. I've been up for like an hour and a half, and I've been trying to avoid it as much as possible. So, I'm just gonna open it. Hold on, I need to start screen recording. That would be bad. Okay, Goodreads, best books of 2021. Whew. Let's see. Young adult fantasy. Okay, Rule of Wolves won by Leigh Bardugo. Okay, honestly, I'm not too mad about that. It was one of my... If either Chain of Iron, Sky Beyond the Storm, or Rule of Wolves had won, I would have been happy. I'm not surprised Rule of Wolves won, but I do kind of wish the Sky Beyond the Storm won, because Tahir's never won, and I loved Sky Beyond the Storm so much. It's one of my favorite finales, so... Yeah, but now I guess we can see, like, how much... So, okay, so Rule of Wolves got 48,212 votes. I guess let's scroll down and see what was in 2nd and 3rd place. So, okay. Then we have Chain of Iron, which got 31,911 votes. Lore is in 3rd place with 27,855. Okay, I wouldn't agree with that. Anyway, The Wind Blows, 26,842. How the King of Elfhame Learned His Stories, 26,479. Iron Widow, 23,754. Where is this guy on the storm? I'm sorry. Gilded Ones, 23,486. Art by the Lands, 19,782. Sky Beyond the Storm, 19,505. Once Upon a Broken Heart, 17,698. So, out of the 10, Sky Beyond the Storm is number 9? That's crazy to me. Okay. Well, I obviously don't agree with this. Okay, Rule of Wolves 5 stars, Chain of Iron 5, Lore 4, Anyway the Wind Blows 4, Elfhame 3, Iron Widow 1, Gilded Ones 3, These Violent Delights 4, Sky Beyond the Storm 5, Once Upon a Broken Heart 2. Okay, then House of Hollow 6,510, because this is, like, not the top 10. 6 Crimson Crane 6,000, Namesake 6,000, Realmbreaker 5,000, We Breathe the Stars 5,000, God the Month, okay, yeah. And then A Vow Bold and Deadly was the last one. Okay, so I'm not too disappointed that Rule of Wolves won. It was, you know, in my top 3, so. And then another one in my top 3 was Chain of Iron, which came in 2nd. I'm a little disappointed that Sky Beyond the Storm was so low, because I think that book really deserves a lot of hype, and I feel like people do not read that series enough. Like, Sabaa here deserves to be, like, Cassandra, Clare level, Leigh Bardugo level, so, yeah. Anyway, that is it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed. It's probably going to be friggin' long, but, you know, I thought this video was really fun, despite, you know, some rocky books along the way. But, it was a fun video. I'm happy that I did it. I'm probably going to do it next year again, so look out for that. But yeah. That is it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in my next one.